at this.
I try. So we are live. I'm gonna edit one.
Even you're gonna want to keep your camera off and mute until Jim's done with his procedural stuff, and once he calls on you, you can turn it on and then share your screen.
Yep. You can stay on if you want, but and we've got about 1 minute before we start.
I'm going to go ahead and start the recording as well.
Thank you.
So we are all ready as soon as you are.
And I'll wait till the internet clock clicks over to 5:30. And it just did. Good evening. It is January 13, 2021, about 5:30 p.m. My name is Jim Brewer. I'm the hearings officer for the city of Salem. Tonight we have only one thing on the agenda, which is ZC 20-01. That's a zone change. I'm going to go through and outline the hearing procedures due to the pandemic in order to comply with social distancing measures in place to help stop the spread of the COVID-19 virus. This hearing is going to be held digitally, and people who wish to testify orally must have already signed in with the recording secretary prior to 3 p.m. today. The order of tonight's proceedings will be a staff report first, to be presented by Stephen McAtee. The applicant's presentation, that'll be limited to 15 minutes. A neighborhood report, if any, will limit that to 10 minutes. Then we'll move to general testimony if there is any, and I understand no one has signed up. But that would include testimony in favor of the application. We'll limit that testimony to 5 minutes per person. Testimony in opposition, also limited to 5 minutes. Testimony that's neutral, also limited to 5 minutes. Rebuttal by the applicant, limited in scope to issues raised in opposition, will also limit to 5 minutes, and we'd hope to close the public hearing. For those of you who are going to testify tonight, please give your name and address so that the recording picks it up. At the end of the process, the applicant will get an additional 7 days to provide additional written argument. This is not an opportunity to provide new evidence, facts, or documents other than an argument regarding information that's already in the record. We'll close the public hearing. I need to direct everyone's attention to the applicable criteria found in the notice. The testimony and evidence for the public hearing must be directed towards these criteria because those are going to be the basis for the decision that I make. For quasi-judicial zone change pursuant to SRC 265.005 sub E, an application for a quasi-judicial zone change shall be granted if the following criteria are met. 1, the quasi-judicial zone change shall be granted if all the following criteria are met. A, the zone change is justified based on the existence of one or more of the following. Sub 1, a mistake in the application of a land use designation to the property. Sub 2, a demonstration that there's been a change in the economic, demographic, or physical character of the vicinity, such that the proposed zone would be compatible with the vicinity's development pattern. Or sub 3, a demonstration that the proposed zone is equally or better suited for the property than the existing zone. A proposed zone is equally or better suited for the property than an existing zone if the physical characteristics of the property are appropriate for the proposed zone and the uses allowed by the proposed zone are logical with the surrounding land uses. B, if the zone change is city initiated and the change is for other than city-owned property, the zone change is in the public interest and would be of general benefit. C, the zone change complies with the applicable provisions of the Salem Area Comprehensive Plan. D, the zone change complies with applicable statewide planning goals and applicable administrative rules adopted by the Department of Land Conservation and Development. E, if the zone change requires a comprehensive plan change from an industrial designation to a non-industrial designation, or a comprehensive plan change from a commercial or employment designation to any other designation, a demonstration the proposed zone change is consistent with the most recent economic opportunities analysis and the parts of the comprehensive plan which address the provision of land for economic development and employment growth, or be accompanied by an amendment to the comprehensive plan to address the proposed zone change, or include both the demonstration and an amendment to the comprehensive plan. F, the zone change does not significantly affect a transportation facility, or if the zone change would significantly affect a transportation facility, the significant effects can be adequately addressed through the measures associated with or conditions imposed on the zone change. G, the property is currently served or is capable of being served with public facilities and services necessary to support the uses allowed by the proposed zone. 2, the greater the impact of proposed zone change on the area, the greater the burden on the applicant to demonstrate that the criteria are satisfied. Before we move into testimony, this is the point where I would tell people failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the city or other parties the opportunity to respond to the issue would preclude appeals to the State Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. So if you have a point you want to make, this is the time and place to do it, or you will not be able to do so later. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues related to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the local government or its designee to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Question for those of you who are online, are there any objections on jurisdictional grounds on the holding of this hearing? Meaning that this isn't the kind of case that the hearings officer ought to make a decision about. I'm not seeing anybody raise hands or turn on their cameras. This is zone change 20-01, 466 Richmond Avenue Southeast, Salem, Oregon, 97301. May we have the staff report, Mr. McAtee?
Yes. Let's see. Bear with me just a second.
You're doing fine. Perfect.
I'm uncertain whether you are seeing the.
We're seeing your screen.
Okay.
I've got it.
There you go.
There we go. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Jim. My name is Stephen McAtee. I'm a planner for the City of Salem Community Development Department. At this time, I'd like to ask that the staff report, the attachments, and the case file, the attachments in this presentation be added to the report.
And they will. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. So this is a project at 466 Richmond Avenue Southeast. It's a zone change, case number ZC 20-01. The application for zone change is proposed in order to consolidate the site's zoning to one zone and to make basic education a permitted use throughout the entire property. Future development of the site will be reviewed with the applicable site plan review, building permit, or other land use action, and is not included under this review. The applicant and staff have met all of the timelines for application processing, as shown here in this slide. So the property is at 466 Richmond Avenue Southeast. It's the site of Richmond Elementary School. It's located in Southeast Salem. It's west of 25th Street Southeast, south of State Street, and north of Mission Street Southeast. The property is about 2.36 acres in size. There's the elementary school is proposed to remain, and there is a project currently submitted for staff review for some improvements to the property. The comprehensive plan designation for the property is community services education, which is characteristic of education uses. And the existing zoning. So the property is split zoned. The blue portion to the north of the site is a public educational public and private educational services zoning, and the southern portion of the site, which is in green and bound by the hashed line, is public amusement, which is characteristic of a indoor, outdoor recreation type use. And the adjacent property to the east is a park, and that is, there's no proposed change to that property. So the zone change, again, it's changing the portion that is currently zoned public amusement to PE. Staff finds that that satisfies the approval criteria by equally or better being a better suited zone than the current PA zoning. It's consistent with the comp plan designation. It's consistent with surrounding zoning in that it's, you know, it serves the surrounding residential uses, and it will not significantly affect transportation facilities. Here are a handful of pictures. This is looking at the entrance to the school from Richmond Avenue Southeast. This is Richmond and Simpson looking northeast. This is looking at some of the school facilities, I believe a covered playground structure and then some modular classrooms from Simpson Avenue. This is looking from Mill Street and 24th Street, looking southwest at the school building. And this is the terminus of a cul-de-sac on 24th Street Southeast, looking at the Richmond School Park, which is adjacent to the property. Public comments were sent to the neighborhood association and to property owners and tenants within 250 feet of the school. The Southeast Salem Neighborhood Association submitted comments in support of the zone change request, and no comments were received from those who were sent notices in the community. Based on the facts and the findings in the staff report, it's recommended that the zone change from PA to PE be approved. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. That seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
I have to say, I enjoyed looking up the PA zone to see that it was public amusement. I don't know why that for some reason pleases me. But,
Yeah.
Thank you. If I have some questions later, I may be asking you to come back up.
You bet. Thank you.
Oops. So with that, would the applicant like to make a presentation?
Good evening. My name is Margaret Ganderville. I'm the attorney for the applicant. My mailing address is 250 Church Street, Southeast in Salem, zip code 97301. We'd like to thank staff for their time and effort in preparing the staff report and for their presentation this evening. As they indicated, this is a fairly straightforward application. We, as the applicant, are proposing to unify the zoning on the property to allow for the replacement of several portable classrooms on that southern portion that is currently zoned PA. This would unify the zoning for the full property, allowing for the basic education use for the entirety of the site that is currently developed as Richmond Elementary. Applicant has provided written testimony into the record, providing sufficient evidence in response to all of the applicable approval criteria, and we're requesting that the application be approved as provided. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have about the proposed development or the application materials.
So the development later gets a site plan review. This really is just changing the zoning. Again, much as I like a public amusement as the zone, it certainly makes sense that the school facilities ought to have the PE zone instead, unless we hear some other testimony tonight that's very convincing. So thank you. You might stick around, see if we have a question or if you have anything that needs to be rebutted, but I don't think, unless Mr. Shipman decides just to take some lobs in the other direction, I don't think we're going to have anybody else.
All right, I'll remain here until the hearing is concluded if something else comes up.
Great.
Thank you.
So with that, do we have a neighborhood report? I'm not seeing anyone.
And no one else has contacted me to sign up. So
That's-
unless you have questions for staff.
That seems like I do not need to go through the testimony in favor, testimony in opposition, testimony that's neutral. We don't have any takers for those. I'm sorry, Ms. Gandervo, that means you don't get to do rebuttal. I will ask you, as the applicant's representative, do you want to waive your right to 7 additional days for a final written argument?
Given that approval is recommended, I think that we can waive that.
I kind of anticipated that. Thank you. So we're going to close the hearing then. I'm going to approve this. It will probably take me a week to get the final decision out. It might be 10 days. Thank you for your time this evening. Stephen, very nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too.
Margaret, nice to meet you. Mark, you've been, pleasantly quiet. That's
For a change, that's rare, Jim, right?
yeah. Zachary, great job as always. Olivia, nice to see you. And with that, I think we can go. I think we're done.